Welcome, everyone. I think we're live. So, thanks for joining us. This is the series premiere of Where Are You Shopping in Your Relationships? So, my name is Mariquita Solís. I'm the Uncaged Heart Coach, and I work with men to look at how they're relating to feelings in their lives, right? And to really break apart this man mask that stops them from living a fulfilling life and having healthy relationships. So, in my early days of switching to coaching men, I was very excited to meet my co host today, Linda Tilson. And Linda is a consummate accounting professional who is deeply fascinated by the human experience and the patterns that shape behavior. She encourages individuals to embrace authenticity by choosing lives rooted in alignment with their core values, clarity, and personal integrity. Now, we want you to know that we are not here as counselors or therapists. No, we are here. We're here sharing our experiences, and we're talking about where are you shopping in your relationships. And we're going to be talking about authentic relationships, transactional relationships, and and the awareness that comes instead of accepting just piddly squat in relationships. And y'all, this is meant for fun. It's nothing. I mean, we don't want to be heavy. We will be deep, right? But we're just going to be talking from our hearts, which is what we encourage you all to do in the comments. So, and it's to really bring awareness to how we can better our lives and our relationships. So, Linda, thank you for being my partner in this.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invitation. As you know, human behavior, what people do and why they do it, has always been of great fascination and interest to me. And, you really spoke to my heart when you wanted to do this series because I thought, you know what, we're in a state of not everyone is moving through their relationships in the way that they'd like to. We hear a lot of I'm done doing relationships. I don't need anybody. I can count on myself, nobody else, and all of this doom and gloom, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm an optimist. So I'm thinking, okay, if you're thinking that, there's doom and gloom to relationships, all kinds, then okay, well, you're here as a person and you're thinking that no one else can come in and meet you where you are. Well, what's to say that the other person sitting on the other side isn't thinking the same thing about you, right? And so at the end of the day, what you can control and change is how you show up and how you respond to the world, right? And so really what we're going to be talking about in this series about relationship is our ownership in that conversation. There's going to be things that we're going to speak to, like, how do you communicate your values? And one that we're definitely going to hit on today is, should I lower my expectations and my standards so that more people can meet me? And my answer is absolutely not. So maybe we should start with that one there, because that one we could talk for hours. But let's see what your thoughts, Mariquita.
Well, yes, I think my standards are, I would say, now this, I feel like I always say this, that it sounds vain or demanding or something, but I mean, I feel like that I've been told that my standards are very high. And I mean, sure, I could lower them, but being with other people that don't meet the standards depletes my energy because I'm wanting something from them, and that's not fair to them, right? It almost sets them up to for something. I mean, this sort of dynamic that is not honorable when I realize this person, it really isn't giving me what I need. And for me to know what do I need in a relationship. Now, we're not necessarily talking about romantic relationships. We're talking about friendship as well. Sometimes my body's always telling me, giving me the answers of how was that interaction with someone. And sometimes I have interactions, I go home and I feel upset and depleted, and I just push it to the side. I really need to evaluate, is that person on the same frequency as I am? Instead of, well, instead of my ideal of, this person has to be this, but more listening to the somatic system in my body sometimes, which I didn't even know existed because I pushed that to the side, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And it's just something that I've actually even realized in my own work that I do on myself about the somatics and how important that is. Because when you're with another person in relationship, whether you feel seen, heard, you can articulate it logically, but when you start thinking about how does it feel in my body, how does it feel when I'm with this person? Do I feel overwhelmed? Do I feel energized? Do I feel depleted? All of those things. Do I feel scared maybe, or do I feel like I'm walking on eggshells to say and do the right things and to be the right person? And I like that thread that you just brought up about um, at the point where you might want someone to be able to meet you in an area of your needs, let's say, and what we can do when we paint a picture of what we want the other player, the role that we want them to play, then it becomes this whole projection on this is how I want to be able to maneuver the conversation so I can control the outcome. So you meet a person, you want to have a connection with them, you see all these great possibilities in the making. And what we do then is we don't give the other person an opportunity to come and be accepted as they are. And so at the end of the day, you've got a role playing going on, right? And so what's a better way to go about it is to come into the conversation where the idea is to be present in that space. And you know what, you might meet that person one time and that's the last time you ever see them, or no, there could be a continuation on, there could be something that you choose. And I think if people were to more or less come into it with curiosity and enjoyment, and then take it from there, because we're in a lot of times we're in a hurry. We meet someone, we have a connection, we want it to go forward, we're so excited and all the energy and emotions flowing. And so when we get into that space, uh we're not always thinking about, is this person someone I want to be with? I mean, yes, the energy is going and the excitement's going, but really, when you take a step back, what is the other person bringing? Do they energize you? Do they uh, bring something that you have as a common point of sharing or existing? And so slowing it down and really taking your time. I always say that in order to get that depth, if you're looking for that, is to slow it down, take your time. And not all people, this is a hard truth to swallow, but not all people want to go to depth. They may just want to be happy in the proximity of that volunteer activity. They may have other things going, and so they just can't show up in the way that you want. And so that's where being discerning becomes a real important tool as you go along the way to see, oh, I'm going to open up the door. Hey, would you like to have coffee with me next Tuesday? And you're like, you get to decide on that, right? And that's a doorway there. I ask you that, and you might answer about three different ways. And so based on how you answer can change how we progress through the building of a relationship or going in different directions.
Exactly. You hit on a lot of great points there. And please subscribe if you're watching, y'all. And please let us know you're watching. Put your questions in comment and comments in the comments. So I think a lot of times what I would see is I would go in with an agenda. Now, someone just reached out to me and said, I'd like to get to know you better. Now, this is a friend relationship. And I kind of all these things like, oh, wow, now I've already immediately put on this person my idea of what it's going to be like, and like this like desperation, oh gosh, I really need another friend, really, and so and that's not the healthy energy to be in. And I can catch myself now, and also I've caught myself in the past where if the person doesn't text back right away, oh gosh, what's going on? This is some little thing. And we are in a society where there's such immediate gratification, and we have to be, we feel like you better text me back right away. And so I catch myself in that, allowing people to be in their own space and to communicate with me at their own pace, and not to pressure and push like you're saying when we get so excited. Wow, a new friend, where can we go? Let's go, let's go, let's go. And for me, that's very easy to fall into that trap. So being aware of what traps you might be falling into when you start building a relationship, and how you can build a foundation. And that's not a trap of authenticity, that's a trap of desperation and neediness. So how can I be authentic in showing myself without overwhelming the other person or putting demands on them, but being, we want to keep the conversation going, right? You want to keep it in balance.
Yes, and so you hit upon that point, pacing. The Because we want to just go with that energy in that moment and see where we can push it forward. And all great things, they say, take time. And so relationships are no different. You want to not overwhelm the other person. But you also want to, also not putting, like we had talked about a little bit earlier, those expectations and of what we're wanting. And so, you know what? Instead of like assuming that the other person knows why you're there and what you'd like to have happen, start communicating that. You know, um, I could say to you, because you and I have met and we've been building our own relationship. And so we are kind of, in some ways, two peas in a pod. We're both very much high energy. We want depth in the relationship. We want it to move forward. We want it to be the best for both people, all of those things. And I feel that as we've been going along, we've been asking each other questions of preferences. And so I know for a fact that you value somebody that will go lockstep with you along the way. You have a role, I have a role. We work together and we move things forward. So we're both those builders, types. But at the same time, maybe I would have to ask you, would you like to talk more in person, or would you rather, go through and do, chat through text? Because some people would, have a big preference. Because I know that when I ask people that I meet, whether or not they like voice notes, texting, do you want me to pick up the phone and call you? Do you want that planned or unplanned? You know, when you're going to get into, deepening a relationship, you got to start with the basics, their preferences of how they like to communicate. And, sometimes asking, is now a good time? Or, not just jumping right in and let's go.
Yes, and not assuming. So many times people come to me and say, I never knew what was going on. And why didn't they know? Because they were afraid to ask the questions. But which is worse, not knowing? It's better to ask to to know. Not everybody is like you. It would be okay for you, Linda, to not like me, right? Not everybody is going to like me, and that's something that we have to accept. And sometimes another thing that's very important to know in relationships is they come and go. I might be with you for a few years, and then we might kind of move apart, and we might come back again later, instead of trying to force it when it's not right. And our bodies tell us again that it feels right. With you, it feels right. We're not exactly alike, but we have a lot in common, and we really sync. My body feels safe when I'm with you, which might seem crazy, but I mean, this is very important, to listen to our bodies. Do I feel safe when I'm with the other person? Is this person going to be able to handle, hey, I'm feeling stressed out, Linda, right now, and I kind of, could you give me some space? Is it safe to say that, right? And so I also want to thank Jenny for watching, and Mike for watching here. So let us know if you have any questions, but it's about safety. I feel safe with Linda, that I can be honest with her. Like, I didn't like what you talked about on the live stream, Linda. Or I would probably not say it like that, but I would say it in a way that would be, kinder than that. But how could we do this differently? So I know that she's not going to attack me, and that all subjects I can talk about anything with her. That is when you know that you're in that frequency alignment.
I love that. And, communication is kindness because, sometimes we have this, time in our life, all of us do, where we don't communicate what needs to be said. And then that's not very kind to the person on the other side. And so, I would want you to tell me if there was an area that you wanted me to work on as we're doing our live stream. I would take that in as like, oh, she cares enough about me to give me, hey, this might be more effective if you do this. Are you interested in hearing my ideas? Now, as you're talking, more things are coming up because a lot of things are coming up because
I know.
relationships are not something you learn all about how to be effective in them and then you put it away and you're done. No, you're always going to be learning. As long as we're living, we're going to be in relationship land, right? We're going to learn what works, what doesn't, and how we can be better if we choose to be. And one of the other things that came up to me is, and it's come up for myself actually, you might think when XYZ happens, this is how I would respond. And when that happens in the mirror, somebody on the other side, and they may or may not respond in the way that you would, then that can be challenging. That can be challenging. You're like, well, why didn't they just speak up and tell me this? I would have listened. Why don't they do it that way? Well, we all don't communicate in the same way. And so that can be hard when you're, when you have conflict, and how we deal with conflict may be vastly different, or even, how we communicate our preferences could be vastly different.
Yes, you're right. And knowing that we are all individuals, and not and to ask questions, So what made, and thank you, or simply saying, thank you for sharing your opinion, right? Could you explain to me more how you feel about that, right? When we don't understand. And this gets into this convenience store, whole food dynamic in relation, where are you shopping? Right? If you shop at the convenience store, it can be very shallow. It's a shallow, we don't have to go into depth, right? Maybe we might argue over the dishes, right? Like washing the dishes. But if we're shopping at the whole food market, then, relationships are messy. So then we're going to look at all these layers. It's dependent on the layers of a relationship. If you just want a bag of chips, okay, well, just keep it at the shallow level, right? There are no guarantees that's going to last, because the chips, they're empty calories, right? So if you're eating the food of substance in a relationship, you're looking at this person as a multidimensional person, and you're not going to make assumptions. Oh, well, I assume this on this surface level. No, let me have the conversation to hear the different levels that could be involved, and the different thought processes in coming to this evaluation, this idea that they think. And that is so beautiful when we can honor each other in that way. Tell me more about what you think. Explain to me, because I love you. That's an indication of love. I love you, Linda, because I want to hear more. I'm not going to just say, oh, well, Linda doesn't like dogs, so she must be a blankety blank. No, right? So, yeah, exploration is beautiful.
Yes, we don't want to villainize anybody. And, just because somebody is different than us in the way they communicate, or the way they process their feelings, or all of those different dynamics. Just, what you brought up earlier about how people come in for a time. Sometimes they stay forever. Sometimes they don't stay very long at all. And that's the same thing with the depth of the relationships. Some people just want to stay at the surface and just have it be relaxed, casual, and fun. Other people, they would like to take it to another level and actually get to know the person in a way where they're a big part of their life. Not everyone that you meet wants to be a big part of your life. That's just the way that it is. Yeah.
That hurt.
No, yes, it can hurt, but then you look at it from a different frame of thinking, is that, if you can have certain people that you have fun with in a context of volunteering, or you have a context of the people that you work with, or the context of you know you know someone that's your best friend that you can talk to anything anytime, and there is no filter at all. Not everyone wants to be in that place, and so really finding out from the other person when you first meet people, finding out, are they looking for just to have fun? Are they looking for more of that relational uh field where you're going to become a big part of their life? And you know one thing we haven't talked a lot about is evolving. So when you communicate your needs and how you like to move through the relationship with a person, that can change over time. Because I will tell you right now, I'll just use myself, is I'm someone that when I go into depth with a person and I really want them to be a part of my life, I'm a daily communicator in a lot of ways. And we'll find out that not everyone wants to communicate daily. And um and maybe, once a week or once a month is fine. But once you know what the other person values, and they know what you're looking for, you can find that happy medium. Because I will tell you that I met someone that didn't necessarily want to become a daily communicator, and they actually became one over time. And if they go away for like a week or two, they'll say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be gone for a week or two taking care of some things, and I'll come back when I'm ready. You know how nice that is to hear that from that person. They know that they won't leave me hanging, because leaving me hanging might make it feel rough. And so they know that. And so that means that they care enough to say that. And I accept and trust that, yes, they will come back, because that's what they do. So there's never this like anxiety in my body that, oh, I said the wrong thing, I pushed them away, I want too much. No, the converse is true. And that didn't happen over time. It took a couple of years before that really started to cement like that. And I'm so glad it did, because when you have that best friend that you can talk to about anything, that is one relationship that's one of the best you could ever have. You don't have to put on a mask. You don't worry. You feel great. You feel energized. And not everything's perfect, I'm going to say that, but you know how to work through conflict, and you can sit with it.
Yeah, you're right. And relationships are messy. So knowing that it's messy, and the messiness, when the conflict arises, that is an opportunity for growth, for connection. So when we avoid conflict, we are not using the mechanism to connect and to build that relationship. If we just shut down and we don't want to talk about it, well, darn it. That's the gold, when we can talk about it and we can show the other person. That shows me that, we have conflict, but I still care about you. I still want to understand, right? And that is the messiness. We can't go about thinking, well, we want it perfect. Everything has to be perfect. There's no perfect. When you have messiness in a relationship, it's organic. So it seems like so many times I hear people struggling with the messiness. It can't be like that, but it has. If you want something of substance, then yes. If you want a whole food relationship, it's going to be messy. If you want something casual, well, and that's fine. You might want that. I'm not saying that that's bad. I mean, there are times in my life where I wanted just casual convenience store relationships, but I'm at the point where that doesn't fulfill my soul. So yeah, it's something you have to know yourself, what you want, and not to take things personally in relationships, and not to be afraid if someone doesn't match your frequency and they move away. That we can't force frequencies to stay together, right? And this is, I'm not, I mean, we're not, I'm not talking about dating or boyfriend or girlfriends. I'm talking about someone on that same level. You know it when it's there. It's easy, right? It's easy between me and Linda, because I feel the energy when I see her. Right? We're working together. It's like she doesn't have to beg me to do things. I don't have to beg her to do anything either. It's easy. But we know that we can also handle the messiness of it, and we are aware that everything doesn't have to be perfect, right? That this is an organic little growing pile. So who knows? We might grow some weeds, and that's okay.
That's okay because those weeds grow in the garden. I'll go along and I'll pluck them. I'll help do the gardening, and you can help water.
Thank you. And Mike is saying, "Where are you? Where are you shopping?" Is a good metaphor. Thanks for watching, Mike. Yes, and there's a lot to talk about here, and it
There
comes down
really
to
is.
knowing yourself first,
Mhm.
right? And being confident in yourself, right? Where someone might step away, that's okay. They're vibrating at a different frequency. It's not about you. It's about, are you resonating? And sometimes you can't force frequencies together if they're not in alignment.
And nor would you want to. It's not pleasurable. It's not healthy when things are you're trying to put things together because you really want something to happen. I mean, the best relationships are the ones where you don't have to push or pull or prompt anybody to come through that door. And so the analogy that I like to use, or the metaphor, is you put out an invitation, the person, and then you get out of at that door, you put out the invitation, then you get out of the way, so you get away from the door. And if that person is willing and capable and has capacity and wants to come through, they'll come right through the door. They'll say, yes, I will join you for coffee next Tuesday. And that's as simple as it is. And we make it much harder. We will extend invitations, 2, 3, 4 times, and nothing happens. And there's nothing wrong with doing it once and then nothing happening, and then something changes, and then that same invitation, the person walks through the door. I think that's more realistic, because sometimes it takes more than one time to ask somebody. But then the same spectrum, you don't want to ask someone 20 times when they don't respond, they don't step through the door. The silence there, the non-response, it's telling you something. You may not want to see it or hear it, but it is telling you something. And so knowing when that happens too, that it's okay. It's totally okay, because as you said earlier, not everyone's going to like us. We don't like everyone. I mean, I think I told somebody that, I'm like, yeah, we don't like everyone either. Our preferences could be totally different, and that's okay. That's why they're called preferences.
Right. And when we're authentic and we don't see, I used to try to force things. Of course, I used to think, gosh, what can I do? In fact, I was watching videos on how, well, in the dating aspect, how you could show the person that you're so interested in. I thought, what am I doing watching them? I mean, it's interesting now that I look at that and I think, yeah, that is very deceptive. And that's the way I used to be in the past. Right. Now, and twisting myself into creating something like, oh, ha, 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 Linda, Linda, you're making me laugh so much, instead of being my real persona and saying, if Linda doesn't like me, that's okay. If if this shopping series fails, that's okay. Well, let's see what grows, right? And when we're authentic, we can grow that Whole Foods. But when we're putting on these masks in relationships, we're not going to grow much. We might grow some plastic or some cardboard, and it's not going to last.
And there's another important thing to you show up with a mask on, or not who you are, and that person on the other side that you're speaking to falls in love with the alter self that you're putting out there that's not you, and then they become disappointment. They're disappointed when you change, and then your real self comes, the person that you want to, you get more relaxed and comfortable with who you are, and let that person out. And they're like, well, you're not who I thought you were. And sometimes you can be pleasantly surprised, but when somebody relaxes and let their guard down, and then you get to see who they really are. But at the same time, do you really want to show up as someone that you're not, and the person, they like that version of you, and then you can't sustain that version of you? I mean, that's exhausting if you're trying to do that. And I mean that in the best possible of ways.
Yeah, and when we're talking from our own lived experiences with compassion, and I know what it's like to be desperate and to be confused and not want to confront things in relationships, for me to shut down and just pretend like everything's okay, instead of having those messy conversations. I take responsibility for being the one to mess up relationships many times because of my own fear of not being loved. It was easier for me just to not go along with the hard conversation so I could think, well, I'm not going to risk my chance of ruining, the possibility of being loved here.
And that's most people. You want to be accepted. You want to be loved for who you are, and you feel like if you show up as who you are, that's not going to be enough. And you know what? With the right people, it is enough. It will be enough. You will feel it, and once you've experienced that in your lifetime several times over, that you are enough just for being, and that's when you're not even giving anyone anything, right? Because we talked about transactions, and the shopping that we're doing. You just be accepted without having to give something, then that's all right, and that's good, and that's where, if you're going to have a goal in life, be in that space and place where you can be who you are, and you can be warmly accepted, and get out of like contorting yourself into all these different poses, trying to keep the relationship. If you have to work that hard to keep a relationship, you know what, you never had it to begin with. You didn't have it, you're carrying it. And that's another thing. If you find that you're carrying the relationship, you're extending the invitations, you're always making sure that you fix the gaps that you see of something that needs to get done. You're the one that takes the higher road when there's conflict. It's like, wait, you know what, you're in a relationship of one when at the moment you start doing those things, and so that's when you got to take a step back, like, oh, why am I doing all of this? Am I liking who I am when I'm doing all these things? Does this person make me feel good when I'm with them, when I'm doing all these things? And the answer is no. Then you need to think about why it is you're doing that and make a different choice or decision. And it's not because the person necessarily is bad. They're just maybe not in alignment or not in your energy frequency as you have shared. And that's okay. It's better to recognize that and let the person know, this isn't working for me. I'm going to take a step back and just communicate that. Most people, if you say that, then at least they know that it's not working, and they can choose to accept your stepping back, or they can I could actually get curious and say, what is it that is not working? Could you share that with me? And then that can happen too. That's happened more than one time in my life where something wasn't quite working. So I said, hey, okay, can you share more about that with me so I can understand? At the end of the day, if nothing else, I've learned something that I need to work on and could work on, and maybe it's not with that person, but I could take that with me as a lesson learned.
Yes, every relationship is about learning lessons as well, right? And how to communicate with different sorts of people, because everyone's different. And so I feel like this is a good place to close for the day, because we've touched on some of these topics. We'll touch more on transactional relationships, more on authentic self, and how to show up and how to protect ourselves as well in in the upcoming series. So let us know what you are interested in hearing about. Please reach out to us, put it in the comments, and let us know again that you're watching. And Linda, I'm very grateful for the relationship we have, and that we're able to go on here without any really script. We talked about it and we were laughing before we got on. It's like we don't have a plan here. So that's the beauty of it. When we show up authentically, it all flows. So I'm grateful for that, for your authenticity, Linda, and I value our relationship.
I very much value that, and thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So, did you have any final thoughts before we hit the road here?
The final thought that I have is, we've just barely hit the surface on this whole conversation. And I'm really looking forward to people sharing their comments, whether they watched us live or watched the replay, because that's what makes this discussion that we're having so meaningful, is that we can come in and share perspectives, and you can share your perspectives, and together we all learn how we can show up and be better in our relationships. And who wouldn't want that?
You're right about that. Who wouldn't want that? Well, thanks, y'all, very much for watching. And thanks, Linda, for this. And then we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.